Crisis Core is the prequel to hit 1997 classic Final Fantasy VII, diving deeper into the lore of the beloved world of Gaia. However, if we want to improve Shinra's image, their operators can't just go about attacking everything in sight. So, we're asking, can you beat Final Fantasy VII Reunion Crisis Core without attacking? Now, we're going to have to go back to school really quick and ask ourselves, what is an attack? I've defined an attack as anything where Zack is directly hitting an enemy, so this is the base square press, along with limits and abilities like jump. I've also banned summons because they're kinda OP. Anything else in the game that isn't right here is fully allowed. Oh, we're also playing on hard mode because there's no kill quite like Overkill. Let's begin. We open on certified best Final Fantasy character Zack Fair, a soldier, 2nd class. He's on a mission to wipe out all anti-Shinra presence in Sector 8. Now, in this challenge, base Zack can roll, guard, and that's it. So, how exactly are we going to defeat enemies? Well, Zack can be equipped with materia, essentially equipable spells, and these will be A-OK to use. The issue? All magic expends MP, so we need to become a master at managing it if we want to complete this challenge. You may also see that some enemies will have an elemental weakness. If that's the case, hitting the foe with that element will deal some insane bonus damage, so be sure to keep an eye out. We race to Sector 8, only to find a Behemoth. Well, that explains the running, and Zack readies himself for battle. The Behemoth might look intimidating, but he's not all that tough. Every move can be dodged by rolling to the side. The dodge roll is going to be the backbone of our arsenal. Nothing beats a simple cast and an immediate roll away. Firaga is the best spell to use here. It'll fire 3 shots, each dealing roughly half the damage of Blizzard. If all 3 hit the same target, however, it'll deal more damage in total. So keep at a semi-close range and spam out Firagas. You should have more than enough MP to get through this. We defeat the Behemoth, only to be cornered by none other than first-class soldier Sephiroth. Even Zack is no match for this guy. But before Sephiroth can finish the job, Angeal, also first-class soldier, saves us before it's revealed that all this was merely a VR training mission. Zack's got heart, but to be a real hero, he'll need both dreams and honour. Shinra has been at war with Wutai for some time, and they want the war finished for good. To do this, they've sent some of their very best. Zack and Angeal sneak into Wutai in the dead of night. To get to the fortress, they'll need to cut through a dense forest. Unfortunately, Zack will not have any of his OP materia anymore, leaving us with just Blizzard, Fire, and Cure. Out of Fire and Blizzard, Blizzard is currently the clear best choice. Not only does it deal more damage, but a direct hit has a chance to stun an enemy too. We get eyes on the fortress and Zack moves in. We're stopped at the gate and need to fight off wave after wave of Wutai guards. And this is the first roadblock of the game. You simply don't have enough MP to defeat all these enemies. But roadblocks haven't stopped us before, and they certainly aren't about to start. By this point, you've probably noticed this thing in the top left, the DMW, Digital Mind Wave. It essentially runs everything in Crisis Core. It'll determine the limit breaks you get when Zack levels up, along with a few little extra things. For example, whenever the middle number rolls a 7, you will get unlimited MP for a short duration of time. Now, unfortunately, there's no real way to rig these slots, so it's down to good old RNG on whether or not you'll get anything useful. We eventually fight our way into the fortress, and we'll have to defeat all 16 encounters here to get a piece of necessary equipment. Now, we do have 3 ways of regaining MP. The first is a save point. Interacting with them will refill both your HP and MP. The second is consuming an ether item, which can be done both in and outside of battle, and you can buy these easily enough from the shop in your pause menu. The final is very situational, but if you get a limit break, it'll partially refill your MP. This is, again, completely random, but if you're all out of ethers, it is a way of continuing the fight. Defeating those 16 encounters is tough, but doable. If Foullanders are in the fight, we need to deal with them immediately by casting Blizzard. This will defeat each one instantly, and then from there we can take down the remaining enemies. You need to move slowly and methodically to find all the encounters. The easiest to miss are the two at the lookout towers, which you do need to backtrack to find. It takes some time, but we defeat Wutai's army and infiltrate the main stronghold, where we need to fight Wutai's best. These two monsters that I cannot pronounce the names of target and attack you individually, regardless of what the other is doing. However, they both work the same way. They're slow, tanky enemies. If we use Blizzard and immediately roll away, they won't be able to get a hit in, letting us repeat it. Occasionally, the bosses will charge up their own limit break. We can reduce the damage of these by dealing damage to them, with each cleared bar reducing the damage of the limit break by 25%. Once one of them have been taken down, the fight becomes far more manageable, and Zack takes down the anti-soldier team. Angeal meets up with us, and we get our performance review from Lazard for defeating all those encounters earlier. We get a fire armlet. This will reduce all fire damage taken by 50%, which will be required to tackle the next boss, Ifrit. Ifrit is tough and can hit us from anywhere in the arena. Even with that 50% reduction, his attacks hurt. Ifrit does have a crippling weakness we can exploit, his elemental weakness to ice. If we can hit him with Blizzard, not only does it deal more damage, but it can also interrupt his attacks, giving us some breathing room. We can dodge his long-ranged flame shot by weaving between the three fires with rolls. Even at range, you still aren't safe. Ifrit will close the distance fast and try to get a combo on you. The best solution to this is a simple guard. You will take the hit, but it'll be heavily reduced. But eventually, game time is over. Ifrit will begin to charge up. The main reason that armlet is required for this fight is his limit break, Hellfire. We can just barely reduce his limit to 50%, which paired with the armlet should keep us alive. The good news is that each consecutive limit break is easier to decrease than the last. Eventually, Ifrit will fall, but he goes in for one last strike. Luckily, Sephiroth makes a last-minute appearance and slays Ifrit in a single hit. It's revealed by Sephiroth that Angeal has defected along with another first-class soldier, Genesis. They're both labelled as traitors and must be eliminated on sight. With Angeal gone, Zack is feeling lost. Even the mighty hero Sephiroth is refusing to take missions focused on his disappearance. Zack, on the other hand, doesn't command the same authority, so when Sung of the Turks tells him he's on duty, the man's on duty, and they head to Benora Village, Genesis and Angeal's hometown. We find out that Genesis has been cloning himself to create an army of soldiers, which it seems will be our job to take on. Between chapters, all enemies receive a massive stat boost. These may be the same enemies from Chapter 1, but they are now a lot stronger, so dodging and blocking will continue to be important. The Guard Spider can take us down in seconds. The worst attack is its Type 97 cannon. Make sure to either guard up to reduce damage, but you can also dodge the attack by rolling to the left or right. This boss is weak to lightning damage, which we picked up the materia for earlier. With the spell, we can damage the spider for significantly more damage, and with the materia, it shouldn't take too long to defeat him. Zack and Song infiltrate an old warehouse being used by Genesis. We get ambushed and cover Song as he finds more information on the faction. These guys have nothing on Zack, and after beating them, we find Genesis, who takes off as soon as we see him, but not before summoning Bahamut to take care of us. Now, Bahamut can be a difficult fight. We're still pretty early in the game, so our stats are pretty terrible, with each hit dealing insane damage to us. Luckily, we can abuse our roll frames. When rolling, Zack becomes invulnerable to attacks such as this ground pound. Timing the roll just as Bahamut reaches the ground will get us through the attack damageless. This is a risky strat, as if we mistime the roll, Zack will just take full unguarded damage, but it is worth the risk. Laser orbs are easily dodged by rolling around them, just like we did with Flame Shot against Ifrit. Just keep spamming blizzards here. They have infinite range and Bahamut stays pretty still when attacking you. We need to keep our MP above 50% at all times, because Bahamut's Limit Break, Mega Flare can one-shot us even at full health. As soon as the charge starts, we need to spam out blizzards to get the power to 50%. This will make it barely survivable. The good news, that's his worst attack, so once you know that, you can get through the rest of it. It took a few attempts, but eventually Bahamut went down. Unfortunately, Genesis disappears before we can apprehend him, and Banora Village is given the Vietnam treatment. Returning to Midgar, we are promoted to Soldier First Class for all our efforts. This gives us a few things. To begin with, we can now equip 6 materia at once, greatly boosting our capabilities. I personally always put an MP and HP materia on these 2 new slots. We also unlock Materia Fusion, allowing us to craft even more powerful materia from 2 others. We want to always level the materia up to Master rank before fusing, as they will carry over the stat boosts, allowing you to eventually create materia like these. The final thing First Class gives us is battle bonuses. Depending on how well we perform in an encounter, we can get back some of our MP and HP. For the best bonus, try not to get hit, which will recover most of our stats. It's here where the side quests open up. These are linear missions given to us by the Shinra company, and there is a lot of these. Due to the sheer number of these side quests, going over each one individually would make the video 2 hours long, so I'll give you the highlights. But before we begin, talk to this lady in the lobby of the Shinra building. This will give you a free Phoenix down, which will save you once from death in battle. And if you use it, you can go right back to the woman and get another one completely for free. With that in mind, let's begin the side quests. The Materia Development Division is in danger of closing. Zack will need to explore the vast world in search of Mako stones. These will allow the scientists to create new materia to prove their research is worth funding. As thanks, we will be given all the materia developed, which will be very helpful when we want to fuse extra materia. When on the job, it's very important to explore the areas fully to get all the chests. You can find some pretty insane stuff in these, from magic up materia to elixirs. After completing all 6 missions and handing in all 6 stones, the division is deemed profitable, remains open, and we gain all 6 of these materia. The Shinra army want to compete with Soldier to see who defends Midgar the best. We fight through hordes of their army, getting more and more respect as we showcase our power, with Soldier's victory being assured with the destruction of Shinra's elite unit, the Spider-Bot thing. This thing doesn't have an elemental weakness to exploit like the last one, so this fight is a bit drawn out. Just make sure to dodge the webbing attack and use lots of ethers, and you should be able to defeat them, finally humbling the Shinra troopers. After doing some odd jobs for Shinra, we get an alert. There's a break-in at Shinra HQ. Sephiroth is needed to guard the president. Zack is going to be defending the building head on. Our new powered-up materia is really effective here. This force begins with Genesis clones and increases in difficulty, with us needing to fight several sweepers. And I kinda forgot to equip the lightning materia. It's all good, as we can make do with our blizzard materia, which will interrupt their attacks, letting you combo them. We find out that the clones are all over Sector 8 and assist with the Turks with cleanup. We even meet Cisne and get her limit break, which we won't be able to use. Sephiroth and Zack meet in the Sector 5 reactor, where we learn a bit about the trio's friendship. Sephiroth knows what he will have to do. After fighting through several monsters living in the reactor and powering up a couple of doors, we find the device cloning Genesis, before meeting the doctor behind the stolen technology, Professor Hollander, who makes his exit as soon as he sees f***ing Sephiroth. He'll be covering us while we chase down Hollander through the back rooms, I mean the plate maintenance sector. This area is filled with those same enemies from the reactor. We need to rush them with their elemental weakness and avoid taking damage to get all that used MP back. Funnily enough, this is one of the only chapters that don't have a boss. Instead, we need to fight these 3 sweeper variants, which honestly wasn't too bad at all. 2 have weaknesses, and while the other doesn't, you can keep interrupting its attacks with blizzards. After defeating them, we corner Hollander, only to see Angeal is protecting him. He believes himself to have become a monster, and as soon as he has this revelation, he attacks Zack, with him falling several hundred feet. We awake in the Sector 5 slums inside a church, where we meet local flower enthusiast, Aerith. She's happy to have helped us out, but Zack insists he must pay her back somehow, a single date. But before that, side quest time. This set of side quests open up at the beginning of Chapter 4 and are a necessity to clear immediately. This is due to their incredible rewards. The Item Fusion Tomb will allow us to use items in Materia Fusion, something we will be abusing a lot later to create some insanely OP materia, and Backpack, which will allow us to equip up to 4 accessories, doubling our equipment and our build complexity. These missions get pretty tough near the end. These gargoyles in the later missions can cure each other, making the fights they're in drag out significantly. To counter this, we can simply keep an eye on all of them and switch targets to interrupt the cure with Blizzard, and this will stop the gargoyle from casting the heal. One of the rewards for this side quest set was the Dragon Armlet, which should be equipped immediately because it'll reduce all elemental damage by 50%, which is insane. With all that over, Zack and Aerith go on their date, where Aerith tells Zack of her dream to fill Midgar with flowers. Unfortunately, those dreams will be on hold for now, as monsters are everywhere, with Zack defeating them all, clearly trying to impress Aerith. Zack then proceeds to have his wallet stolen, defeats a few more monsters, and gets called back to work when Genesis continues his assault on Shinra. Genesis's army is crawling all over Sector 5. These are some of the largest encounters we faced so far. Try to keep yourself from getting surrounded, and focus on using Blizzard against large groups, hoping the spell hits and staggers multiple foes at once. After Zack goes a few rounds, we see Angeal yet again, but we seem to be on the same side for now, with him even giving us a lift all the way up to the Shinra building. We confront Genesis inside. It seems he's after Professor Hojo to stop his body's degradation. After being told it can't be stopped, he summons yet again. Bahamut Fury is a less mobile but far tougher variation of the Bahamut encounter, and he is a major step up in difficulty. All of his attacks can not only interrupt us, but they all really hurt. If we aren't spellcasting, we need to be guarding. We also want to equip the Barrier Materia, which will allow us to cast the spell of the same name, which will reduce all physical damage for a short duration of time, helping us deal with the damage Bahamut is dishing out. Hexafang is the toughest attack to dodge. He will fire his wing things as missiles at you, coming down from above. The best way to avoid these is to keep rolling and abusing those invincibility frames. Whenever he uses the limit break Zia Flare, brace yourself. You need to reduce this to 50% just to survive, and even then, just barely. This attack has the nice benefit of taking away all your MP too, so you'll want an elixir ready. Whenever he isn't attacking you, continue to spam out blizzards. This is your best bet to deal lots of damage quickly, and again, it has an infinite range. Just keep this up, and he will fall before you. With Bahamut Fury defeated, Zack stands alone atop the Shinra building, where Angeal and Genesis are nowhere to be found. After all that goes down, Zack heads back to the church to see Aerith, only to be confronted by Song, who desperately needs us on an expedition to find Hollander, so we need to get our equipment in check. Now, you might be seeing these numbers here and wondering what exactly they mean. With Item Fusion that we unlocked in the last chapter, when we fuse materia, we can increase the bonus stat we get with that new materia. This does require some very specific items, but after a few missions, you should have enough to make some pretty cool bonuses. On that expedition, our helicopter crashes, and we need to make it through the snowy peaks on foot. While walking, we meet actual main character, Cloud Strife, a lowly Shinra infantryman with big dreams of one day joining Soldier. We near an old Shinra facility. Hollander is certainly inside, but to gain entrance, we need to sneak past some guards. Side note, does anyone actually know what happens when this temperature bar drops? I have legitimately never seen this happen. Anyways, we reach the inside where we find Genesis turning on Hollander, with Zack jumping in at the last second. Unfortunately, Hollander escapes with us having to hold off Genesis. We want to remain at range when dealing with Genesis because if we don't, he will combo us with several swift sword slashes. Even at range, we aren't exactly safe. Genesis has two specific moves he can use to strike us down. The easiest to dodge is Black Feathers, which can simply be spam rolled through. The other is Dark Energy, in which he casts 3 energy shots. These move very slowly and can be avoided by simply moving between them. After a while, Genesis will cast Regen. This will heal him by 1500 HP every few seconds. To keep his HP roughly stationary, we want to keep up the assault, continually casting offensive magic onto him. Eventually, Regen will end, and that's when you have the opportunity to get some insane damage in yet again, hopefully defeating him. Upon his defeat, Genesis vows revenge before falling deep into the abyss. Genesis is gone, now we need to find Hollander, who appears to have gone to the nearby village Nibelheim. It's there where we find Angeal, who corners us. He's just been told he is the perfect monster, and Angeal, with his honor, cannot live like that. He informs Zack of his final lesson. Angeal absorbs the power of his clones to turn himself into a true monster, and we need to put him down. Angeal is a very unique boss. He doesn't have set phases, but he does have set states. He will either have his physical or magical defense buffed up. Again, you can tell which is which based on the icon shown. When magical defense is buffed, I recommend simply sticking to defense. We aren't going to be able to get any real decent damage in anyways, so keep guarded and dodge those attacks. Angeal's Limit Break Unleashed Wrath is insanely powerful. Even reducing it to 50% won't be enough. Luckily, we still had that Phoenix down, so we're able to revive ourselves, but if he uses it again, we're finished. When the opportunity presents itself, we want to keep using Firers. These are a lot cheaper than Blizzargers, while dealing only slightly less damage. Charge of Greed may seem dodgeable, but this charge locks onto Zack's position, so I found that simply guarding up at least reduces the damage we get, allowing you to roll away and continue your spellcasting. This fight does take a while, exclusively because we have to wait him out when his magic defense is increased, but after a long while, he will be beaten. With Angeal defeated, he thanks Zack for protecting his honor, and in his dying breath, he gifts us his Buster Sword to protect our own, with Zack accepting it along with its symbol of defending honor until the very end. It's been a few months, and Zack is on vacation, doing some squats like everybody does on the beach, until more Genesis clones arrive, which Zack does take care of even without his trusty parasol. We then get told by the Turks that the Genesis clones are after Hollander, who's being kept in captivity in Junon. And by the time we get there, the city is already a war zone. Zack is going to have to fight his way to the very top of Junon to stop Hollander's escape. Most encounters here will be against groups of the Genesis clones, so Firers are ideal here as they will lock onto multiple enemies at once. After a few encounters and streets, we spot Hollander, who's making his way to the Junon airbase. But we aren't chasing him long before we find trouble, a massive tank. The General's tank is by far the longest boss so far. To begin with, he will have several small flying drones called support machines out. These things will all try to attack Zack constantly, but luckily they can be taken down very quickly with Thundara, so we will need to take them all out before focusing on the tank. The good news is that the boss itself isn't too complex. It moves very slowly, all the attacks have an insanely long charge up, and those attacks can all be avoided with a simple roll, as when attacking, the tank remains stationary. But good god, did this boss take a while. I'm not even sure why. His stats are fine, and it doesn't have any magical resistances, so what is going on here? Now, his limit break did have me worried at first, as it was very difficult to decrease, but all it does is revive those support machines. Simply take them out with another Thundara as you did before, and continue the grind. After what ended up being about 6 minutes, we take down the General's tank. And now that the tank is out of commission, the civilians of Junon can use the bunker here to take shelter. However, trouble is brewing when we see Hollander set even more weaponry onto Junon, with a big force heading straight for that bunker. This activity requires us to catch up to the enemies before they reach the door to enter an encounter with them. To defeat these encounters, we will want to use a Thunder spell, as it will melt them immediately. Upon defeating the encounter, they will halt their progression, allowing us to stop another enemy. There are exactly 10 of these, with a total of 30 enemies defeated in the encounters. And doing this perfectly will grant us a Magic Up Plus materia for our troubles. We reach the airbase to stop Hollander from fleeing, only to find the Scorpion Sentinel a few years early. The Guard Scorpion is no pushover. This is the toughest of the mech enemies, and it doesn't have an elemental weakness. We want to cast Regen immediately to be constantly healing us for any stray damage we may take. The Scorpion has an enhanced Gatling gun attack, with very little wind-up, and if unprepared, this will kill us. As soon as you see the text, be ready to roll away immediately. Even if you roll a little late, you can normally dodge a few of the shots with only the last couple getting you. If you let it get too close, the mech can melee you with its front legs, and it also has an AoE shock attack, but it rarely uses this ability, and the range isn't too bad either. We can tell when the Scorpion is about to limit break because it will scan us before the traditional charge up. This gives us a little breathing room to heal up and get the MP needed to reduce the damage. Once the charge up begins, however, we need to hit it with everything we've got. Tail Laser, even at 50%, can take off roughly 2/3 of Zack's current max HP. But again, with the limit indicator, we can safely heal all the way to max before the charge up even begins. This fight also luckily doesn't take anywhere near as long as the tank, so just keep up the assault and the Guard Scorpion will be down for the count. Unfortunately, Hollander just barely slips past us, flying off with some Genesis copies. Sephiroth comes in, questioning exactly how these clones are still being produced. He believes Genesis to have somehow survived our encounter. Both Sephiroth and Zack are committed to stopping Genesis's plans, whatever they may be. With increased monster activity in Midgar, Zack rushes back to Aerith's church, only to find an Angeal copy has been watching over her and protecting her in Zack's absence. Aerith demands it is now time for us to make her that flower cart, but before that, it's side quest time. By this point, we have the final versions of the 3 base spells, Firaga, Blizzaga, and Thundaga. However, these spells cost a lot of MP, so we're going to have to spend this grind session focused on upgrading and developing passive purple materia, specifically getting a lot of extra MP. This grind isn't so much about beating these missions for rewards, but you definitely should still go for all the chests in these anyway. One of the coolest set of missions we do actually clear are the boss rematches. This will set Zack against the main bosses of each chapter as its own encounter. These fights are slightly more powerful than the initial encounter from the chapters, but not by too much. The biggest difference is that they will have roughly 20% more HP on average. None of these bosses should be an issue for us, as we are so much stronger than we were fighting them for the first time. There is one very specific mission you really should do, and that is take back the carrier in major offensives. This is exclusively for the mission rewards and MP++ materia. I shouldn't even have to stress why this is going to be very useful. This specific mission also has lots of chests everywhere, a grand total of 6. All the encounters in this mission aren't too bad either, with a simple Firaga taking care of almost everything here. With this mission's completion, we not only get the MP++ materia, but have also been leveling up a lot of extra materias. Be sure to fuse any master materia together to continue the power gain. After all those side quests, it's flower cart time. Now, there are a total of 3 carts you can build Aerith, with the final 2 being locked behind side quest completion. Luckily, all building the extra carts gives you are a couple funny cutscenes, so we're just not going to do them. We've got to find 3 things. The first is wood, located by talking to this guy in the Sector 5 slums. The second is a tyre, easily found on the Sector 8 plate by talking to this citizen next to his car. The third and final item needed is a set of instructions found just outside the church. We can now finally build Aerith that flower wagon and help Aerith with the sale of said flowers. It's now when Zack is informed of his biggest mission yet. This is the point of no return. We won't be able to come back to Midgar past this point in the story, meaning that before leaving, you need to talk to Free Phoenix Down Lady one last time to get that final Phoenix down for free. Now that we are fully ready, we find out that both Sephiroth and Cloud will be joining us on this mission. We're all going to Nibelheim. Zack, Cloud, and Sephiroth reach the rural village of Nibelheim. Their local reactor has apparently been malfunctioning, so we're all here to investigate it. The reactor is placed right at the top of Mount Nibel, so to get there we have enlisted the help of local guide Tifa Lockhart, who gets us there without issue. It's what happens inside that's the issue. It's discovered that Professor Hojo has been experimenting on human subjects by infusing them with dangerous levels of Mako, turning them into monsters. Sephiroth then starts to question his own origins before Genesis comes in to eliminate the confusion. Jenova, Sephiroth's mother, is in fact a 2,000-year-old alien calamity. She's a monster. Sephiroth proceeds to leave without us, with Zack having to escort Tifa and an injured Cloud back to Nibelheim. The enemies here can be pretty tough, but so long as you hit those crucial elemental weaknesses, you should be able to defeat them before they have the chance to land a single hit on you. After roughly 10 encounters, you should be able to make it back to the village, where we find that Sephiroth has locked himself within the nearby Shinra Manor, reading any and all reports about Jenova. He emerges from that building only after learning what he believes to be the truth. Sephiroth has set Nibelheim ablaze and has returned to the reactor, with us having to follow closely behind. To reach the reactor, we just have to go back along the trail from earlier, fighting all the enemies on the way there. We find Sephiroth in front of Jenova, talking to her. He's completely lost it. Zack turns his sword to him, but Sephiroth is still Sephiroth, and we need to fight him in the reactor below. This fight against Sephiroth is no joke. We will have to utilise every little trick we've learnt to even stand a chance. When idle, Sephiroth will march towards us. If he gets too close, he will use his sword to combo you. The most powerful move Sephiroth has is Draw Slash. This is an ability that can bring you from max HP into critical with a single hit. A simple guard will not be enough here. To have even a shot at victory, we will need to perfect roll. You want to time your roll exactly when he begins the slash, this frame here. Dodging at that point will guarantee that you do not take any damage at all. Sephiroth's Limit Break Octo Slash can deal lots of damage to us. Luckily, we can predict roughly when he will use it. In my experience, Sephiroth begins his charge up when at 75, 50 and 25% HP. So be ready when he nears those HP marks. It's quite easy to survive, just be sure to heal up immediately afterwards. After he uses Octo Slash, he will summon in 2 crystals. These will start constantly casting magic onto you, so deal with these very quickly. The red crystal is weak to Blizzard, while the blue crystal is bizarrely weak to Thunder. Huh? Sephiroth will occasionally use Heartless Angel, which is completely unavoidable and will reduce Zack's HP to exactly 1. However, it doesn't impact MP, so be ready with some X potions. After roughly half of Sephiroth's HP is gone, he will summon another 4 crystals. This can get pretty challenging. Take out the green one first, as this one can heal both the other crystals as well as Sephiroth himself. Once the green one's gone, you can deal with the others in any real order, as they're all roughly as powerful as each other. Just keep up the assault on Sephiroth. Your spells may sometimes miss, as he has a habit of teleporting all over the place, but just keep at it and his HP will reach 0. But we aren't done just yet. Phase 2 of the fight begins now. Sephiroth is going to march us to the edge of this platform, and if we can't defeat him before we reach it, it's an instant game over. We need to rush him with everything we've got. You will want to spam out Blizzagas as fast as you can, only stopping whenever Sephiroth either uses Draw Slash or Heartless Angel. Keep up the assault and hopefully you should just barely be able to make it through. It doesn't even matter that we won the fight, Sephiroth still goes on to beat Zack, throwing him outside the reactor. But when Sephiroth lets his guard down, Cloud stabs him with the Buster Sword, but hey, shouldn't that have cut him in half? It still isn't enough to stop him, with Sephiroth desperately trying to escape with Jenova's head. It seems all is lost when Cloud is also badly hurt, but he uses every piece of his strength to throw Sephiroth deep into the reactor, certainly killing him, with Cloud collapsing shortly after. After the blackout at Nibelheim, Zack awakes, only to have found himself left to Hojo to be experimented on. He looks around to also find Cloud, who's not holding up too well. He's got a severe case of Mako poisoning, a condition brought upon by the exposure of severe levels of Mako. Cloud is mute and unable to move, so we'll have to be protecting him for the rest of the game. Now, don't worry, this isn't a traditional escort mission. After defeating all the enemies in a room and proceeding to the next area, Zack will simply go back to pick up Cloud, dropping him safely in the next room too. We even get him a clean soldier uniform, as his infantry one is soaked in Mako. Unfortunately, Shinra isn't willing to just let us get away with all we know. So we are going to have to defeat waves of troopers. Some have gotten to Cloud too, meaning that we are also on a time limit. These troopers are the toughest we faced so far, but don't worry, they are still weak to fire. And with Firagas, we can hit 3 targets at once, greatly increasing our power. You might be worried about that timer, but don't worry. You have more than enough time to make a few mistakes. Just be sure not to be too slow and you'll make it out just fine. After the encounter, Zack learns how to snipe before Cisne discovers us, but after seeing Cloud, she decides to let us go, even gifting us her vehicle. Zack and Cloud continue their life on the run, but Zack decides to make a quick pit stop at Gungaga, his hometown, only to, of course, find the place completely deserted, outside of Cisne, who's supposed to be bringing us into custody. Luckily, she doesn't feel like doing so, and informs us that Genesis is here too. Genesis is looking for Sephiroth's Jenova cells, the cells implanted into Zack and Cloud from the years of experiments with Hojo. Zack's cells are no good to him. Due to his years as soldier, he developed an immunity to the Mako. As for Cloud, however, those could work. And as soon as that's been revealed, Hollander makes a dash for him, hoping to harvest the last remaining Jenova cells on the planet. We reach Cloud just in time to save him from that old creep, only to be assisted by what appears to be Angeal. No time to think about that. Right now, we need to take down Hollander. Hollander is shockingly tanky. Not only does he have tons of HP, but he also has magical resistances, essentially meaning that every one of our spells will be doing half the damage they normally would. Now, you'd think that would make Hollander a very tough fight, but honestly, no. Not only does he move very slowly, but casting Blizzaga will stagger him, and there's no cooldown to him getting staggered. So, for example, if you keep spamming out the magic, you can get stupid amounts of damage on him without any risk. He is eventually scripted to break out of it. Occasionally he will rush to the center of the arena to summon some monsters. These are all weak to ice, so you can normally take them all out together with a couple of Blizzagas and get right back to Hollander. Honestly, that's all there really is to this fight. Much like the General's tank, the boss isn't hard, it just takes a while. But hey, that does more or less mean you're guaranteed this victory. With Hollander gone, we see that this isn't Angeal, it's in fact Lizard. He cloned Angeal cells onto himself to make himself powerful enough to take on Genesis himself, and he agrees to team up with Zack to get it done. With the information Lizard has given us, we go back to Benora Village. The bombing of this place from our last visit has revealed the caves below, where Genesis awaits us. This area is essentially the final dungeon of the game. We're going to have to fully explore this area to find the 7 materia hidden in chests. These act as keys that unlock the final room, but it doesn't take too long to realise that this area is way too difficult for our current setup. It's time to now get disgustingly overpowered. The ESP sidequest set will grant us some very important equipment. Specifically, they will allow us to break the HP and MP limits, allowing us to get a maximum of 100,000 HP and 10,000 MP. But to get the gear, we will need to complete some pretty tough missions. The G Devastators specifically are very annoying. It takes a long time to defeat them, on top of them using the ability Osmose fairly frequently. This will simply absorb all of Zack's MP, requiring you to use an ether. The issue is they use this move like every 15 seconds. To dodge it, you can time a dodge roll to avoid the drain completely, so there is a workaround. They don't really deal any damage to you at range, so it's only a matter of time until you defeat them. And with that, the mission set is complete. Now that we have lots of OP gear, it's time to get some OP materia. The training missions are by far some of my favourites. They're all a very simple concept: defeat waves of enemies, with the final mission being to defeat 1,000 of them without dying. We need to throw nothing but rank 1 purple materia on Zack with only Firaga as our attack spell. This will allow us to one-shot them, but consequently, due to our insanely weak loadout, they can defeat us quickly too. Cast out a couple Firagas as soon as the wave comes in, and they should be dealt with before they have a chance to attack. After a big wave of 9 will come a single Sergeant who can be dispatched just as easily. Between this and the next phase is your best chance to use an ether, and I recommend you do it every single time. You may waste some of the ether, but you do not want to run out of MP during a wave. After about an hour and a half, you should have beaten the entire side quest set, and now it's time to fuse materia. We ended up fusing the Hell variants of all the attack spells. This gives all the spells several attributes, including death. What this means is that any enemy, no matter the HP, that isn't immune to death will instantly be defeated upon a hit. An insane spell for sure, but it does require 52 MP to use. So we'll also combine our MP up materias with certain items to create an MP up with a 300% bonus, giving Zack a current total of 937 MP. But if that also wasn't enough, you remember all those chests we've been finding in all the missions we've beaten? Some of those had elixirs in them that I specifically did not use. So why did we not use them? If you combine 2 HP ups, every single elixir you item fuse will grant an additional bonus of 10% more HP. This allows us to create a 420% bonus, completely destroying whatever balance was left of the game. This final dungeon is now instead a victory lap. You shouldn't have any kind of problem with the encounters here. Just run around exploring the areas at your leisure, finding all 7 chests. Now we have the final boss unlocked, and he's not gonna be quite as easy as the cannon fodder. Genesis has combined himself with the live stream, and the planet has become his guardian. Or, more specifically, the Genesis avatar has. The final boss of Crisis Core is conveniently weak to all magic. The major issue is that we can only target those weaknesses when he isn't doing anything. As soon as the avatar places his sword down, we can no longer target him, and the sword does not carry those same weaknesses. Even worse, when the sword is like this, the avatar will summon out a total of 8 clones. Most of these are pretty easy to take care of, but the mages are not. As you can possibly imagine, they have a high magic defense. Try to group as many together as you can and use Hellfiragas. This leads to each fire hitting multiple targets at once. We need to take them down first, even if the avatar is vulnerable, as it'll just keep spawning them in, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. Between spawning phases, the avatar is vulnerable, but he will also try hitting us with either Shadow Flares, Flares, or his Limit Break. His Limit Break specifically is a non-issue, as I was able to stop it every time without a problem. Your best bet with Shadow Flare is to keep on rolling. This should get you through most, if not the entire attack, completely unscathed. As for Flare, you can just guard up against this, and it'll protect you against most of the damage. Just keep the summon minions down as soon as they spawn in, and whenever possible, keep up the casting on the avatar when he's open. After a few rounds of minions, we beat him without too much issue. With the avatar destroyed, we have one final duel against Genesis. This Genesis fight may have better stats, but as a fight, it is significantly simpler than his first encounter. Genesis can do 4 things. He can charge at us with his sword at any time. This can easily be rolled away from to avoid the damage. He can use Dancing Sword, which is a flurry of 4 swings followed by a small AoE ground pound, and the most complex move is Magic Sword. To avoid it, do a diagonal roll. This will always dodge both the first and second slashes. Genesis's Limit Break is a lot harder to destroy, but luckily, due to our insane HP pull, even at 100%, it just can't kill us, meaning that this fight shouldn't be too much trouble with our new setup, and Genesis will finally go down. With Genesis defeated, Zack and Cloud are now able to continue their journey to Midgar. Unfortunately, just a couple miles out, they get ambushed by a large army of Shinra troopers. If you are at all familiar with this game, you will know that this fight is completely unbeatable, no matter how hard you try. Zack takes a few too many shots and gifts a barely conscious Cloud the Buster Sword, just as Angeal did to him. And with taking it, the circle continues. Cloud alone continues the long walk to Midgar, and the Crisis Core without attacking challenge is complete. Now that was a fun challenge. It's so shocking how complex your builds can get with careful use of the materia fusion mechanic. I definitely recommend giving this one a try. The beginning can be a bit tedious, but as soon as you reach chapter 4, you can just break the entire game by doing the right missions. Getting materia like Firaga and HP++, destroying whatever balance the game has, and it's really fun to do. If you've watched this far and have enjoyed this mix of game challenge / deep dive, I definitely appreciate a like and subscribe. It really does help push the video performance more than you'd think. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all again. And of course, a super special thank you to every single one of my generous YouTube members. I appreciate every single one of you.